Also, when you're reading these polls, and you got to read the tiny print, you got to look at the methodology, but then you see, 645 adults nationwide, and it's like a week before an election or a day before an election. 645 adults. Whoop-dee. That doesn't screen for U.S. citizenship, let alone registration to vote, let alone likelihood to vote. So 650 adults nationwide, it may be about 425 registered voters probably this year, 275 likely voters out of that. That is a small second Catholic wedding where I come from in South Jersey. That is not a national poll. And so it's craziness. And if you see overnight polls, oh my goodness. If there's breaking news on the East Coast tonight at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, you get like 1 good hour calling time, and then you're done. So you wake up the next morning, there's an overnight poll. It's basically people who live in Anchorage and Honolulu. That's not an overnight poll of the country. And this is important too. With the rise of cell phone use and the rise of young people like yourselves wrangling my business, there are nights in this country when there simply just aren't enough young men ages 18 to 24-year-old at home to talk to pollsters. They are, bless them, out being 18 to 24-year-old young men. They're not like, I just got to sit here because someone might just call me about Obama versus Clinton. Yeah, I'm not going to go on that second date. I'm not going to go hang out with the guys and watch the ball game. Who cares about the Stanley Cup Finals? I'm going to talk to a pollster. I don't think so. So you got to let it breathe in the field so that you get your quota set, and that's important too. And finally, the big problem with polling is that nobody wants to admit the natural limits of polling. Oh, I only wish that I really had that crystal ball the Washington Post gave me, but I won't waste your time telling you McCain or Obama, McCain I think by the way, but McCain or Obama, I would tell you this week's Powerball winners, or who's going to win the World Series if we can go buy our tickets now. I wouldn't waste your, because you can't really predict with precision a result that is relying upon we the people who love to change our minds all the time. We change our minds about for whom we'll vote, but we also change our minds about whether to bother at all. And that's really the threshold question this year, whether to bother at all, and secondly, for whom. And I think it's really important to notice that we don't have magical elixirs, that you've got to dig a little bit more deeply, I think, into just what the polls say. I want to give you a last good example about polls. Knowledge questions in polls are excellent. This is really the wave of the future. Again, not to show that people don't know what they're talking about, but to really understand how deep can your opinion be if you don't have the knowledge. And so it's good on its own as a standalone question to look at the results, but it's really great as a crosstab, because then if you're involved in a public policy campaign, as we are routinely here on Capitol Hill and in the state capitals, then you can say to your client, look, the information education campaign has to begin at the very basic level, stuff that you know in your sleep. Most people don't realize, or they're confused about it. They don't know what rationing means in healthcare because they didn't live through World War II. Nobody's ever told them you can't wear pantyhose. They don't anyway. So it's nobody. You have to understand the basics of this. So knowledge questions are great. Why are they great? Also because they really expose the difference between what becomes the truth because it's been repeated so much, hysterically and breathlessly, and what truly is the truth. So a few years back, we asked 4 polling questions in a row. My favorite all-time poll that we've done, and I have many. We asked in the following sequence. As you recall, how many Rice Krispies characters are there? Next question. Please name the Rice Krispies characters. Next question. How many justices serve on the United States Supreme Court? Next question. Please name as many justices on the United States Supreme Court as you can. Now, why did I do that? Again, it's not to stump the Americans, but it's because I was really sick and tired of hearing, anytime you try to have like a nice casual dinner or conversation with a stranger on an airplane, I was so tired of hearing the breathless proclamations, the breathless concern, wiping their sweating brow about the Supreme Court. Oh, I'm so worried about the Supreme Court. They're going to gut Roe versus Wade. They're going to make women barefoot and pregnant. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, who exactly are you worried about? The court. Who won the court? Because they all vote. So they all there's the vote. They all decide they all vote on the opinion. Just the court. It's so right wing. It's so who makes it right wing? But that guy and the Reagan appointees and the Bush appointees. I wish. Okay. So then I figured, let's just put it to the test. Everybody's so worried about the Supreme Court. Let's see if you know what you're worried about. Here are the answers. 75% of Americans knew there were 3 Rice Krispies characters. I thought that was pretty amazing, only because they haven't advertised in years. Years. You walk into the aisle, the grocery aisle of cereals, there are like 65 different kinds now. You know, there's more than just the Brokeback Mountain elves on the box of cereal there. You have all these kinds of cereal, fortified this, whole grain that. Great. Please name the Rice Krispies characters. 67% said Crackle, 65% said Pop, 65% said Snap. Now, the day I'm going to release the poll, my husband and I, we lived in Virginia at the time, we're driving to work, and I said, I'll drive so you can read the poll. And he's reading, he's very serious. He's reading it, and he's like, what's up with Crackle? And I'm like, honey, I mean, I don't know. Maybe somebody felt Pop's way too a misogynist term for a cereal character from box. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a plastic surgeon. I'm a upholsterer. I don't tell you, here's what your nose will look like after the surgery. I just perform the surgery. You live with the result. Next question. How many justices serve on the United States Supreme Court? Now, this was my favorite answer of all. Because in fairness to people, when we think it's going to be a question that is beyond the ken or the normal conversation for the average person, we give choices. Because again, I don't want to be, oh, 91% didn't know anything, he. So we said, how many justices serve in the United States Supreme Court? 5, 7, 9, or 11. And as any good poll does, we rotated the responses. So 25% heard it in one order, 25%. 5, 7, 9, or 11, 7, 9, 11, 5, 9, 11, 7, 5, 5, 9, 11. You know, there's all these different variations, not even 25%, but you know, there's all these different variations. 32% of those surveyed knew or correctly guessed that there are 9 justices on the United States Supreme Court. Now, what was remarkable to me is not the people who said 5, 7, or 11, but the 28% who said, I don't know. So we said, all right, 5, 7, 9, or 11. I have no idea. 9, 11, 7, 5. In other words, guess. Anybody here take the SATs, for God's sake? When in doubt, circle the C. You know, it's just guess. And here, had you heard 5, 7, 9, 11, C would have gotten you on the money. I don't know. I have no idea. 28%. An additional 12% volunteered an answer other than 5, 7, 9, or 11. Oh no, this is a quiz. You're trying to stump me. I've seen the movie 12 Angry Men. Oh no, it's not on the list, it's 3, and I'm thinking, yes, Snap, Crackle, and Pop. So 40% of those surveyed either said, I don't know, or volunteered an answer other than 5, 7, 9, 11, one of which was correct. 64% flat out said, I can't name a single justice. Not one. Not one. And even people who guessed like with a name like Kennedy, they got it right. Probably wasn't Kennedy that they were thinking of, but you got to give them credit. There were 2 Supreme Court justices. Souter wasn't one of them. But there were 2 Supreme Court justices, Justice Breyer and Justice John Paul Stevens, who's been on the court quite a long time. They got mentions that were below the margin of error. If you apply the margin of error, they don't exist on the court. 5 people, not 5%, 5 people in the whole survey can name all 9, and I'm married to one of them. That's the thing about, he had no idea who the 3 Rice Krispies characters are, but he's telling me all the justices' middle names. But that's just so telling to you. You're worried about, what does that say to the media? They want to write a story, oh, people don't know the Supreme Court. It's your job to be telling them. You know, you're writing all these stories about the Supreme Court. You're writing what's at stake in the next presidential election. Wouldn't it be nice just to have a little box once in a while reviewing the 9 people? I think it's worth the column inches. Mm-hmm.